These are our hazels about to go out from the nursery. These are 3 years old. They could have gone out last year, but I decided to give it just another year or so to bring on a few other trees that were going out last year, and I just had enough of planting out trees at the time. So we just kept them in here for another year. Hasn't done them any harm at all. So we got 2 trays of these. Now these were grown from seed. They've come from 3-4 different sources. In fact, you can see some of these just starting to bud out a little bit. And that's the thing, they're all different. Each one of these is a different genetic expression of a nut. They've all come from varieties. I think these in fact came from Wales. I think I bought a couple of kilo of hazelnuts from a seller in Wales who grows them. And instead of just eating them, I actually used them as seed. And these are going to go out sometime in the next few days, and over the next couple of years a significant number of them are going to die, and that's exactly what we want them to do. And this is basically exactly where we're planting them. It's an exposed hillside. You can see there's very little cover all around, horizon to horizon. They are subject to drought every other year. They're subject to pretty significant waterlogging every single winter, more or less. I mean, that's squelchy. I'm planting straight into this. And these are actually a little bit bigger than the ones we've just grown out. You can see they're still quite small, but they'll shoot up. The only concession we're giving them is one of these guards. And this will act like a little mini greenhouse. It'll bring it on for a couple of years, and then we'll take them off and use them elsewhere. Beyond that, they're completely on their own. If they're susceptible to disease, we let them die. If they're susceptible to drought, we let them die. If they're susceptible to any of the conditions we got here, we let them die. The survivors, and we keep planting and replacing, the survivors, and we can see we've got a massive row of them all the way up in this road here, and they'll continue right the way down to the bottom of the field, right the way across the bottom, and before we're finished, I'll put a second row couple of feet behind them all the way through. Very, very dense planting, and this is just the inner skin of the outer shelter belt, or what will be the outer shelter belt. And the survivors will be ones that are very hardy and have got all the characteristics that we want, that don't require inputs, that compete with grasses successfully. Very, very tough plants. We don't want ones that we got to throw loads of inputs at or they'll die. It doesn't matter how productive they are if we've got to go to loads of efforts to keep them alive. I want trees that'll thrive anywhere, specifically here. So we've got at least, I'd say, 300-400 more to go out this winter, and there's a huge amount of variety. Then we've got another load of seed going in this for a couple of years down the line again. It's basically the Mark Shepard stun technique: strategic, total, utter neglect. And what we're actually doing is breeding our own nut varieties, because those that survive, those that do well, those that grow well and then go on to produce nuts, they're the ones that we want. So we can stool layer them around the base at that point, and we can duplicate them, we can plant them out into more premium spots like on the swale plantings and so on, and really see what they can do here in terms of nut production. So the first ones to start producing nuts, we'll make a mark of them, and those are cultivars at that point that are good for this climate, in this environment. They're wind hardy, very good in shelter belts and with lots of competition, and so on. Insert whatever characteristics you've got on your site. We can also, of course, then sell those nuts as selected seed for this particular conditions. They're at a real premium. We've actually had people contact us and say if we produce any sort of seed ourselves, they'll buy the lot, because they're trying to establish similar systems here. We're doing a similar thing with chestnut. We're doing a similar thing with various species, but chestnut and hazel are the ones we're working on just now. And you can spend a huge amounts of cash buying fruit and nut varieties that are massively unsuited for your site. You're going to spend a lot of time and effort trying to keep them alive, and there's an excellent chance they'll still die. Or you can plant by the 100, accept that a lot of them are going to die, and let them, and end up with trees that are actually suitable for your environment and your conditions.